Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Inner Diabetes Dominator. Today I am here, Danielle Hargenrader, and I'm super thrilled to have Kate Cornell, who is actually an awesome type 2. And one of the things that I'm definitely trying to do here on this show is kind of bring our communities together, because we need to come together, band together, and be more awesome and be more loud as a group of people with diabetes, not just a separate bickering group of type 1s and type 2s. So I'm really happy to have Kate here today. And as I always do, I'm just going to read her bio and we're going to get right into her story. So Kate Cornell was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in June of 2005, and she began blogging in 2011 as a way to sort out her thoughts about her diabetes, and she loves writing. She also writes on a collaborative blog called The Type 2 Experience, along with 5 other type 2 bloggers. Over the years, she has written articles for several diabetes websites and currently writes for type2diabetes.com. Kate lives in northern Arizona with her husband, near her 4 grown kids and her 4 grandsons. So, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. I was going to say, anybody out there I want to interview, but I'm really looking for type 2s who are out there doing kind of things that you're doing, blogging and just being awesome and living your life and not letting diabetes, no matter what type it is, get in the way. So as we do on this show, why don't you give us a little bit of background on your story of diagnosis and kind of the path you traveled from then in 2005 till where you are now?
Okay, I was diagnosed when I had just a regular exam, and they did blood work. And sometime after that, I got a phone call from the doctor, which is always scary. I thought, God, I have cancer.
Oh.
And she said, I'm sorry to tell you that based on your blood work, you have type 2 diabetes, and you need to make an appointment with your doctor as soon as possible. Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I didn't have a regular doctor, so I made an appointment at the local clinic with whomever I could get in with. And in hindsight, it was a horrible visit because she said, yeah, you've got type 2, you should get a millimeter, you should probably get one that has cheap strips, and watch what you eat. Sent me out the door.
Wow.
I had no clue what to do. I proceeded to look for information online. I was not offered any education. I did not go to a diabetes educator. I did not go to a dietitian. Nothing. All I had was whatever I got online. Kind of to back up a little bit, my paternal grandmother also had type 2, and I knew that. I didn't really know anything about diabetes.
Right.
I had sister-in-law who has type 1. So I was aware of diabetes, but I didn't really know much about it at all. Looking back, when I was raised, my father was born and raised in Wisconsin, and his idea of dinner was a piece of meat, some kind of potato, and our vegetable was always corn. And we liked oysters, but that's what we ate. That's how I was raised. And then in the 70s, when I was a young adult, the food pyramid was there, and it said eat a boatload of grains and carbs and a little bit of this, and that. So that's
a whole other story in itself. Yeah.
What's that?
I said that's a whole other story in itself. We won't even get into the whole food pyramid thing.
Right. So when I was told by the doctor that I should watch what I eat and try to lose a little bit of weight, I was overweight, but it wasn't at my heaviest. I had lost weight previous to this. I thought I had eaten. This was going to be easy, and it wasn't, because eating the way I've been taught to eat did not play well with my blood sugar. And so over the course of many years, I started to learn more about how I should eat to help control my blood sugar. And it's just been a process over the course of the 10 years to figure out what I need to do. And it's an ongoing process, actually, because diabetes is progressive. So I've had to make adjustments all along the way. But that's how I found out I had diabetes. And I completely learned on my own. I don't remember how long it took me to find diabetes online community, but it took me a while.
Yeah.
I thought it was a website. I thought the DOC was a website. I was looking for the DOC because I heard about it, but I didn't know where it was. So that's not comfortable.
Oh no, I think that's confusing to a lot of people. That the diabetes online community. What is that? And that's one of the other things that I'm actually trying to do is bring all of this together. And I would like to create a list of resources for people that are diagnosed, and so they know where to go when they do get diagnosed. But yeah, I don't think that was a dumb thing. I think that probably happens more often than you think.
It could be, but I have to say that once I found a few people who had diabetes, they were so welcoming, and it was an awesome experience, and it didn't matter what type I had. I found upon a lot of type 1s, probably because there aren't as many type 2s in the diabetes community. But I found awesome type 2s as well, and they were so welcoming, and I really felt like I found a really good place to hang out and be with people who understood.
Yeah. So if I could ask you a little bit more about your process, because you did mention, and that's something that I talk about all the time, about how not only life with diabetes is a process, but our health is a process. Staying healthy, living healthy is a process, because as our lives progress, as our lives change, as our needs change, things, we can't just say, this is my diet forever and this is how it's going to be forever, because things change. So what was your process like? Like what, I know it's been 10 years now, but I mean, if you could just give us a little background on how you kind of trial and errored your way through to find what worked best for you, because I think that would be really interesting to a lot of people.
Well, as I said, I was used to eating in a certain way, and I had it in my mind that I needed to avoid sweets. I just ate real food, but if I just ate reasonably, that my blood sugar would be happy. I can remember bursting into tears in the morning because my blood sugar was 167, but it's like, but I was so good last night. Why is that? And so, unfortunately, I paid a lot of attention to what a lot of the mainstream recommendations are for people with type 2. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of recipes that I glommed onto. Ooh, look, I can eat this cake. Yeah. Because I found the recipe on this website that is for people with diabetes. Or the recommendations were a little wacky, but they were coming from a respected place. So I kind of followed along with those.
Yes.
Luckily, diabetes was controlled for that medication for probably 2 years, and I was okay. But then things began to slip. So I realized that what I was eating was affecting my blood sugar more than I realized. And I was starting to take some metformin, but I was also starting to cut back on a lot of carbohydrates. And without really realizing I was doing it, but I was still holding on desperately to this thing that I loved to eat. Bread is probably my downfall. I love bread. I don't eat bread anymore. And that's bizarre for me to say, because you show me a loaf of sourdough bread, I could eat a whole bunch of that. So it was a slow process of paying attention to what my meter was telling me and what I was eating. And I began to realize that I did not listen to what I was eating on these websites. That was strange for me, because they're the experts, they ought to know. So I just slowly started changing what I was eating based on things that my meter was telling me.
Yes.
And over the course of those 10 years, I have dramatically changed how I eat. It was just, but it was because I took the time to pay attention to what I was doing, and I didn't just buy into what I was told I should do. I think that a lot of people with type 2 do that. They listen to their doctors. Not that their doctors are lying to them. Doctors don't always know. And they fall into this trap of eating things that are affecting your blood sugar, continuing to eat better, and taking more and more medication.
Right.
So I didn't want to do that. Now, I did eventually get to the point where I was taking more and more metformin, but I was also slipping back on what I was doing. And it wasn't so much. I don't like to say I follow a low-carb diet. I follow a no-processed food diet.
Excellent.
because the processed foods that dramatically affect my blood sugar quickly, whereas whole foods generally don't. However, I can't eat potatoes, and I can't eat most fruit. I can eat berries. So there's some health things that I do, but I have found a good mix of
yeah. So you said so many great things during that whole time there, but I wanted to touch on, I think for me, as someone who is blessed to be able to help other people through nutrition with their diabetes, I have heard the story that you just told so many times, and that story is that they follow a quote unquote reputable organization's guidelines for what a diabetic diet should be, whereas the unfortunate part of that is that, and I believe that, you know, some of these organizations have changed their guidelines lately, but the thing is that they were giving out information that, you know, someone recommending to eat somewhere between 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, in my mind, that would not only not cause good blood sugars, but that would induce, you know, worse, you know, the type 2 diabetes, the insulin resistance, making it worse, you know, that kind of diet that was being recommended. And many people that I've helped over the years have said, you know, well, I was just following the recommendations that they were giving, and I really was following them rigidly, and I thought that I was doing everything right. And that in itself can cause so much, like you said, bursting into tears, that emotional fallout of, you know what, I'm following this information from these experts. I'm following this information, and I'm still getting these high blood sugar numbers, which can be so frustrating. So I'm really glad that, you know, from you, we're hearing that, you know, that you, and the most important part about that is, in my mind, is that you said, you know, you took the time based on what your blood sugars were, not on what the doctor was saying and not on what the experts were saying, but on what your body was telling you. And that's the most important part of anything, is that listening to your body and then adjusting accordingly. Because, you know, like you said, there are some doctors that may know a little bit about nutrition, but the last statistic I read is that on average, a doctor has about 20 hours of nutrition training throughout their entire doctoral training. So that is, I would say minimal would be an understatement for nutritional training. And I think that the best point out of that is that you need to listen to your own body, and you need to do that trial and error. You have to eat something, test, see how it works out, and then build your lifestyle off of that. So I just think what you said was amazingly perfect. It was, you know, exactly what it should be, and I think you're doing a great job. So awesome.
It just made sense to me that I needed to pay attention to what worked for me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I find is ludicrous is that there are so many people who have diabetes, and that the idea that there's only one way to eat to work for all of those people is ridiculous.
I agree.
We have different levels of medication. Our metabolisms are different. We have all kinds of different things that may be replacing, and all of those things, stress, all of those things can affect our blood sugar. So the idea that there's only one way to eat is silly. And on my blog, I try very hard not to say you should do this.
Yeah.
This, because maybe not.
Right.
But what I do is say, this is what I do, and this works for me. You might want to try it, but always listen to your meter.
Absolutely.
I had a difficult time when I was first kind of jumping onto some of the forums, and there were some really hard people that this is how you should do. You're all crazy. You should be eating low carb. You should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. And it was a real turn off for me.
Right.
They were so right. And I don't think that we need to be yelled at, told that we're doing everything wrong.
I totally agree. And I mean, just, I can't love everything you're saying anymore. I mean, as me as a nutritionist, it's like, I am a big proponent of not labeling yourself as a certain way of eating. Even if you do eat a certain way, whether it's paleo or vegetarian or vegan, I don't care. I think by putting that label on ourselves, we put this heavy stress on our minds, whereas if we eat something that's outside of that label, we stress ourselves out. Well, I'm a vegetarian, but, you know, I ate, you know, a piece of meat, and now I'm a horrible person. And it becomes this whole cycle, this vicious cycle. And I don't like the labels. I think that you eat whatever way you eat Kate's lifestyle and I eat Danielle's lifestyle. You know, it's like, it's whatever you want it to be, whatever makes you feel good. And obviously you're figuring that out, or have already completely figured that out for yourself, which is awesome. So that's just, it's amazing. So tell us a little. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I actually did a blog post about my diet, and I've named it Esther. And my diet's named Esther because that was the name of my maternal grandmother, who also had type 2. So, yeah.
I love
it. The Esther diet.
Perfect. And that's exactly right. You follow whatever diet makes you feel good. Don't label yourself into a corner and then feel guilty and stressed out if you've eaten something outside of your, it's just a whole, we as people with diabetes don't need to add any more self-criticism onto the plate than we already have. So that's totally true. I like that, Esther. But I was going to say, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your blog? You know, I'm going to put a link down below, as I always do, to your blog, but you know, how did it start? I read that in your bio that it started so you could kind of sort your feelings out about diabetes, which is, I believe, why many of us start blogging, because it's a lot to think about. So how did that, you know, come about, and what is it, you know, what's your favorite part of it?
Well, I retired for a couple of years at the time I started it, and I was intrigued. I didn't really know what a blog was. I didn't really know much about it. I watched the movie Julie, so that's how I knew what a blog was. And so I contacted Facebook. I was going to message to a fellow T2 who blogs, Bob Pedersen, who's awesome. And I just asked him a few questions. I said, explain to me about blogging, and are there rules? I didn't know. So I just went on to Google and started a blog and just started writing. And it truly was in the beginning completely for me. I figured if no one ever read it, it was okay, because I was doing this for me. And if there was someone who did eventually read it and learn something, then that was awesome, but it wasn't really my focus.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
This is just, I love to write. I've always been going to write that book, you know, I really haven't. Blogging was a way just kind of document my journey, where I came from, how I got where I was. And it's continuing to be an ongoing journey. And over the course of time, I started getting followers over the years. I don't like blog every I just have faithful followers who read and very few comments, but use the blog. But I realized that a lot of people online, especially people with type 2, tend to be lurkers.
Yeah.
They hang out and listen, but they don't really participate too openly, which I love to change. Whatever. At one point in time, I looked back over the beginning of my blog, and I would talk about the different things that I ate, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I ate that. I should change that. I should edit this. I should. And then I realized, no, this is a true reflection of the processes that I went through. I am not the person I was when I started that blog.
Exactly.
First had my diabetes diagnosed, and I probably had it for 10 years. They say prior to diagnosis. So I think it's important to document those changes and those reflections along the way. I like people who read my blog now, because I get some really comments sometimes from people with type 2. This really are not participants in the online community, but they'll tell me, wow, that really spoke to me, or I really need to hear that today. So that has developed into something that's an added, like I said, an added bonus to the process.
Absolutely.
I really love to write. And write about, they always say you should write about something you're passionate about. Well, how can I be more passionate about anything besides my diet?
Right.
Over the course of time, I have finally had myself labeled that. I really didn't feel like I was.
You are.
But I got really interested in reaching out to other people and helping them understand that they did not do it to themselves, which I don't have time to talk about that. The stigma is huge.
Yes.
And I think that we need to do something about that. I've connected with other people who are more involved as advocates, like with the government or JGRF or you know, the ADA, different places. That, you know, there's people who do have specialized in different things. And sometimes I think, oh, I should be doing more. I should be more. Sometimes I realize, sometimes I just need to tell my story.
Yeah.
And telling other people what it's like to live with type 2 diabetes, it helps somebody in some way.
Absolutely.
And that's a way to advocate.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely an advocate. I think that exactly that stigma, you know, people with type 2 did it to themselves and all this stuff. I think that I couldn't agree with you more that we need to kind of eradicate that. There's a huge genetic factor involved, and people need to understand this. And, you know, that goes back to, you know, the political side of things where, you know, we need to help get more laws passed about, you know, Medicare providing CGMs and, you know, people being able to get the supplies they need. But if we're just constantly bickering between the two types, you know, we're never going to get anything done. It's like we're all one and we're all on the same team, but we're like this party divided. And I think that isn't doing nothing but hurting us as the people with diabetes and not helping. You know, we have so much power and so many voices, but we're not using them to better ourselves so much as we are using them to differentiate ourselves from each other, which I think is just nonsensical. So, yeah.
Well, and I think part of the problem is that the medical community does it as well, and so does the ADA. And I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that it's probably semantics. But I would love if doctors and the American Diabetes Association would stop saying, if you lose a little weight, that tells the world people with type 2 diabetes are overweight, and if they would just lose some weight, that they'd be okay. So instead, they would focus on healthy eating and changing, you know, shunning the processed carbs, etc. The weight's going to go away to some extent, and that's going to help your diabetes. But I think that the focus has always been on weight. And we all, you and I know, and a lot of people know that there are a lot of people with type 2 diabetes who are not overweight.
Yes.
But I just feel like there's too much focus on weight. And anytime you see a news story or something, when they're talking about type 2 diabetes, you've probably seen them too. There's video of these bellies walking by. That's all they show is great big fat people, and that is type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
And so I think that adds to the stigma.
Absolutely.
Now, people who don't have diabetes don't care. They don't care. They see that. They know that's type 2 diabetes, and if you guys could just stop eating so much, you would be okay. Well, it doesn't work that way. I've been diagnosed for years. I have dramatically changed my diet. I no longer process food. I've added exercise. I've lost some weight. Hey, I still have type 2 diabetes. I still have 2,000 milligrams of metformin a day. So it isn't about just losing weight. It isn't about just changing what you eat and you'll be okay. I'm okay. I'm not okay. I'm not in a bad way. I'm fine. But I have diabetes, and so I think that just adds to the stigma. And I very much don't hold people with type 1 or parents with type 1 children. I don't hold it against them that they defend their diabetes. I just wish that they also could be educated in the fact that type 2 is not simple. Type 2 is not just about avoiding sugar. It's a very complicated disease. People are very stressed, trying to make dramatic changes to their lifestyle. It's not easy. I still have problems, and I have to hard on myself sometimes to not eat those things. But I'm going to say, I am not a diabetic. I absolutely struggle sometimes with my diabetes, and I have figured things out, but that doesn't mean that I have it all together and I always do it right.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge important point too to make, is that we all struggle. You know, I don't care if your A1C is 5.0 or 10.0%. Everybody has the same struggles. We all need to check our blood sugar very regularly. We all need to take our medication. We all need to make sure that what we're eating is agreeing with our blood sugars. We all need to exercise that is going to help us control our blood sugars better. No matter what, we all have the same struggles. And even me, I always say this too, is like, as a fitness professional, some days I don't feel like working out. Some days, and I'm just like, you know what? Screw this. I don't feel like working out. And I don't. And it's like, people think they're like, you know, well, these people all have everything together. Guess what? Nobody has it all together. Nobody is perfect. And we all struggle with the same ups and downs. And that's kind of what it is that, and that's another reason why I love the community so much, is because we can all be real here about it. It's not like, oh, you know, my A1C is better than your A1C. It's like, who cares? It's like, we're all just on the same team, playing the same game, which unfortunately is a never ending game for most of us. And we're just trying to win more than we lose, I think. And we better off together.
The fact that I've changed my diet so dramatically, like I said, I still have problems with food, and carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, are so addictive.
Yeah.
And times all it takes for me, one little taste of something, I'm done. And I have also this whole mental thing, this struggle in your head. I have actually been eating something and saying to myself, you really should be doing this. You have any idea what you're doing. Your blood sugar, you're going to feel like crap later. And I still eat it. So, and now, could have been 2 weeks ago. So it's a constant struggle, and I don't think people realize how hard diabetes is, regardless of height.
I agree, and I think that you have an amazing outlook on it, and I think that as far as type 2 goes, you know, you are an advocate and you're a role model, whether you believe it or not, and whether people are leaving comments. I know on your blog, I know people are reading it, and whether we're out there lurking or, you know, not saying anything. I don't have many comments on my blog either, but when I post it on Twitter, I get, you know, feedback. It's like, people are just people, and they're going to do what they want to do. So know that you are making a difference. And I think that it's a huge difference, especially in the community of people who are living with type 2, who are feeling that struggle. And they're saying, oh, well, you know, I'm bogged down by the stigma and all this other stuff, which of course is the truth. But regardless of that, you're still out there doing your thing, writing your blog, living your life, you know, and being happy in general. So that's awesome. So yeah. So as I always ask, and I always say this to everybody, because it seems like the case that, you know, any people with diabetes, we could sit here and talk kind of all day about this subject because we love talking, we're passionate about it. But towards the end, I always like to ask, you know, what are your top 3 tips for thriving with diabetes? What is Kate's top 3 tips for thriving?
This is actually pretty easy for me. Actually, it's not hard because I have to learn it. But a lot of people with diabetes talk about taking things one day at a time. But what I like to people with type 2 is that you need to look at it one change at a time. Because you're lose weight, you need to change up your diet, you need to add exercise, you need to do this, you need to do that. There's so many things you have to do when you're first diagnosed. Well, you don't have to do them all at once. One thing you can do and work on that. So one change at a time. Once you achieve that to some level of success, and move on to something else and add on things.
I love that. One change at a time. I love that.
Yeah, it's crucial because it's overwhelming. And I was there. I was like, holy crap, how do I do all of these things? Well, you focused on learning to check my blood sugar regularly, or walking around the block or something. The next thing I would say to people is they need to take ownership of their diabetes. And that kind of comes back to that whole, don't necessarily listen to what your doctor's telling you or this website or you're going down the street. You need to take ownership of your diabetes and learn how it fits in your life and how you can be successful with it. Not that you should listen to your doctor, but it's okay to question what they tell you and say, but you know what, that doesn't work for me. So I think that ownership of our diabetes is really important. And then the last thing I think I would tell people, which kind of came to the forefront for me recently with the whole stigma thing that blew up recently again, is don't let people put you down. There's always going to be someone who throws that stigma at you, who makes you feel bad. And regardless of how confident you might feel about your diabetes, one comment may get you down and make you feel like maybe I did do this to myself. Maybe if I just try to. So it's important to not listen to the turkeys. Don't let those naysayers and those bullies affecting how you deal with your diabetes in your life. You need to move on. And diabetes is part of my life. It's here to stay, but it's not stopping me from living my life, and I'm not going to let those naysayers or those bullies have that effect on me in the long term. Those would be my top 3.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I really couldn't agree more, especially the second one. It's like, nobody asks for diabetes. Nobody wants to be blamed for a burden that you didn't ask for. But the thing is regardless of the fact that it is a burden for all of us, we have to take responsibility for our burden. There's really just, we can run away from the blame, or, it's not blame game, but you can run away from the responsibility, as I did for 10 long years. And you can be, feeling like crap, or, you can take that responsibility, which is huge. And again, you have to do you. You have to do your thing and not listen to everyone else. So excellent advice. Seriously. Awesome. So before we kind of hang up here, is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners before we end our interview?
You guys are all awesome. You just need to remember that each person is valuable in their own way, and everyone can advocate for people with diabetes just by living awesome lives and showing people that even though you have diabetes, regardless of the type, you can, they don't have to always have it together, but just people that you are, you're all awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's what, to me, that's what the diabetes dominator mentality is. That's what I had to own it up to when I was making the changes in my life. It's like, look, you are a diabetes dominator as long as you have diabetes and you're living your life. You're chasing your dreams, whatever it is that you want to do. It doesn't matter if it's diabetes related. It's just as long as you're being you, being authentic, and, chasing after whatever it is that makes you happy and that you're passionate about. That's it. That's what life is all about. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great experience for me, and I always love doing this because even though I had the pleasure of meeting you before, I get to learn so much more about you. And I'm going to definitely recommend that everybody take a look at Kate's blog. The links are going to be below in the YouTube video as well as on the blog. And if there's nothing else, thank you so much for joining us, Kate.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I love the opportunity to maybe touch a few more people and empower them better. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you on the next episode. Take care.